So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm working in my Mythomorphia by Kirby Roseanne. I am on the octopus sea page. I've got a couple of pieces of paper protecting it. I've got a few riggers out. I've got my water and my baby wipe to make sure that my paintbrush is just damp, and I've got my hydrus, but I'm working with them dry. These have been in here a while. I mean, they're tacky, but they're dry. They're not straight out of the bottle, and if you use them dry you can have more control, a bit more of a watercolour effect, and I quite like that. So I'll just zoom in a smidgen and we'll see. And just bear with me a second, I don't want to make everybody sick. Just pull that down a second. So I've got my palette on that side, and I'm not mixing colours, I'm just using them as they are. So I think we have a bit of a ship and some masts. I think I'm going to do those, and I've got a couple of browns and I just can't remember which ones they are. So I'm cleaning my brush and then wiping on a baby wipe, so it's just damp, and then I'm just dipping it into the... This might be a little bit darker, this, but you can play with the amount of water that you use. So it's quite good in some ways because you can manipulate the colour and get more of a watercolour effect, whereas if you were just using completely bright, vivid liquid watercolours, you tend to get a bit more of a bright colour. If they've already been dried, you just have that little bit more control, and I quite like that. I like working both ways, but again, it's dry almost instantly. And then if you want, again, damp brush, you always have to have a damp brush. You can kind of just test the colour on the side, kind of go in there with a stronger colour if you need to. And I love these Hydrus, Dr. Martin's Hydrus watercolours. They are supposed to be professional. There's a lot of videos out there. With professional watercolourists using them. Excuse me. Try not to talk too much because the hubby and I have been passing our cold back to each other. So you can see you can still get some really nice effects. They're so vibrant that you can get some quite nice effects, and you're not wasting any, because as soon as that colour's disappeared you're back to a damp brush, so all the colour is on the page, nothing is wasted. And again, tight Yorkshire lass, I like that. picking out some pieces of wood. And there seems to be quite a lot flying about, so obviously Mr. Octopus has got a bit angry and decided so I haven't decided if I'm going to do white sails or so. Now I have some dust in this palette, and it's from, oh, I didn't check the focus. Hope it's okay. Do you think it's okay? Again, it's always more comfortable to be the correct way round. So it's probably easier to move everything around slightly so you can have a nice angle. It's always easier to work that way. And then we actually have the boat here, and these hydras go a long way. They are so pigmented, and the fact that they are actually a liquid watercolour makes them very easy to use, even when they've dried out. But they are really beautiful, vibrant colours. And if you use them in this dry form, they react like a watercolour, so you get, with a rigger, so you get your dark, and then if you keep going it gets paler and paler, and you've got hardly any water, so it's dried. And I really like this way of working. I'd forgotten how nice it was. The problem I have is holding this little brush. I wonder if we can get some grippers, maybe to hold a fine paintbrush. I'll have to have a look. I don't know if you can get any grippers for disabled hands. Maybe that would maybe be a little bit better. You got to decide where the light's coming from there. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, it is. It's wonderful. If I show you this, this is where I'm working from, this little tiny bit here. But that's because these are hydras. And I want a watercolour effect. This brown is the darkest brown you've ever seen, but because I want this kind of watercolour effect, That's why I'm doing it like this. So you can either go all over it and then go back and just have a little bit of a shadow edge. And build up some shadows. You do need to have your brush just barely damp, and then that will ensure it's going to manipulate that colour all around. And the riggers make it so much easier. You can do it with others, but I love my riggers. They're just so much easier to use. And you get really nice watercolour effects. Without the water, so you're not going to spill it. And so these water hydrants come in a little excuse me, a little bottle. I don't think I have one now, but they come in half US fluid ounces, which I think is about 15 ml. And there's 3 sets. I bought the set, but I actually made up some of my own colours. Most of these colours on this palette are made up. I really like making my own colours. So you could just buy 2 yellows, 2 blues and 2 reds and just put a few drops of different colours in there to make your purples and your greens and your olives, and you get the most beautiful colours if you do that. So you could just buy 6 and then you could still make up a palette of 20, 30, 40 colours. Oh, thank you, Button. Thank you, Button Addict. Thank you. I was asking about grippers designed for low mobility children. That would be good. Anything to just hold, because they are a little bit thin, these. They're a little bit thin, so you're using your hands that little bit more. Oh, thank you for that. I will have a look at that, because I tend to get an hour of this and then I can't do any more. So I would have, and the other thing is, once you start doing something, you really want to carry on. So I'll have a look at that. And of course, this book is grayscale, most of it, so a lot of cross-hatching for you. Well, actually, I wouldn't call it grayscale, sorry. I would just call this a book with the colours put in there for you. So if there's a lot of cross-hatching, you know it's dark. A true grayscale is where everything's graded. There's no white at all. But I actually quite like this. And you can keep going because you've still got colour on this brush. You'd be surprised how much colour you've got. So you get lots and lots and lots of shades out of one. And then you can go back in again if you want. I mean, and it's dried. It's a watercolour effect with no water, so I really like that. I don't really want that too dark under there, really. So you start where you want the darkest, and then you tease the colour out. And I've got a little bit on that wave, so let me see if I can get rid of that. It's a watercolour, so in theory I should be able to move it. It's not so bad. I did want that to be really, really bright white, but it's fine. Yeah, shade lines for you to follow. It's not exactly grayscale, so that's quite good. So you could colour a lot of this with just like one drop. So I think before I go any more in there, I want to see where the octopus is. And then we've got some kind of smoke coming out of there, so I've got can make a really nice so that splashes, and I can't see any more wood anywhere. Oh, there's some more wood going over there. So I'm going to start with the octopus's tail, but I think I'm going to go a bit bigger brush, I think. So again, I love what I've done here, although I've got phthalo blue and phthalo green. Here I've put phthalo green and phthalo blue, and I've kind of got a phthalo turquoise in the middle, so I kind of touch in there and touch in there, so there's double, and I kind of mix it. I mix it on here. So that's kind of a flat colour. So if you kind of go into the green, it goes green. So I thought about having green underneath and phthalo blue, and this is just a damp brush picking up colour off this this dry palette, so very vibrant. But you can get this gorgeous watercolour effect of taking this colour from that really dark blue to nothing. So I think we'll have that on top. One thing you've got to remember though, it's not an ink. It's a professional watercolour, so you've got to remember if you touch that brown, even though it's dried, it will reactivate itself, so you have to be aware of this. But of course, being a watercolour, you can just manipulate that and have no harsh lines. It's the most well-behaved watercolour. So I'm kind of blending on the page. And as soon as I saw the octopus, I just had this colour in mind. Yes, it's a beautiful blue, phthalo blue and the phthalo green. It's actually quite a deep, rich green, but it's not coming through as that the colour. But if I play with the colour on the camera, I will lose the light and it goes yellow. I can get the green, but you have a yellow effect, so I'd rather not, because it's a pest to get back. And then a touch of blue to work that magic backwards. So you get in the middle a really nice effect. So this is kind of a really hooker's green, I would call it, a really forest bright green. And again, not too wet. I don't really like going over it twice because I like the fact that it's not going to crinkle. And if you mess about with it too much, it will spoil. So going over it twice isn't normally a good idea, but you can get a really nice mix. And with all this blending going on, it's fairly quick. So it's a really nice way to work. So you can build up some really nice vibrant colours like the birds. Now one thing I didn't do is I didn't dunk back into the clean water and then clean it, so it wasn't wet enough. You've got to be just enough wet. It takes a bit of practice, so you need to do a photocopy first. That's what I did with Thumper when I did my I photocopied things first, so that once you can do this technique on ordinary photocopy paper, you can do it on anything. But it's a good idea to just have a bit of a practice first. So it is a really, really rich greeny blue, is that? And again, I'm touching next to nothing on here. It's dried, almost sticky, but just a touch is ample. That's far too much what I've got on there. So I don't normally work that wet. I like to do it in one if I can do it. So now we've got these kind of I forgot what they're called, the suckers on the and I'm thinking possibly a purple. I think perhaps a purple. I'm going to have a very quick look at my birds in Mythomorphia. I think they were in Mythomorphia. And sometimes it's a good idea to do this. Have a look back. So these are, I'll pan out a bit. We'll have a quick look at this. So if you can see, so I've got reds next to these colours and oranges and purples, and we have a yellow beak, so I think I'm going to do, and this is really this is the green on top really, so I think I'm going to do the yellow. Now this was done with wet hydrous, but the colours all match together, and I do like the pale peacock with it. I don't think I want orange. I think I want purple suckers, I think. So sometimes it's a good idea to have a bit of a look at a previous picture or one of the first ones that you've used, the colours, because then you've got a good idea of what you need to do. I think that's just a little bit blurred. Hopefully that's not so bad. So I'm actually using, in fact I could use a bit bigger brush and then I wouldn't have to do that, but I'm going to do the suckers now, so I want a smaller brush. Aquafine, the Daily Round Rigger, and this is a number 2, and I kind of like this one for control, it's quite good. So I've got some purple, and again it's just a couple of drops of purple that's dried, but you need very little. If you're going too much, you get very, very strong colours. I think underneath here can be kind of the purpley colour as well, and then we can manipulate that colour under there. And I think I might take that. I've got this green, sorry, and I've got that one. I've made 2 greens. I think the underbelly, I'm going to do this green. Now I've made this green with a couple of drops of yellow Hansa, which is the bright yellow, the cold yellow, and I don't think I like that actually. Looking at it, I don't think I like it, so I'm just going to I'm going to go over it with this green. I like this green with this purple. It's a bit too pale, that. And so luckily I can just morph that into there, that's fine. It's got to have a green underbelly, so you couldn't do that with a paler colour, but because this is so strong, just about got away with it. With a hint of purple in there. So I'm going to leave that to dry a little bit now, and I've got some more brown ship there. I think that's more brown ship. Again, a lot of the time if I'm not sure what it is, I leave it rather than do it and make a mess. I kind of leave it. That looks to me almost like a wave, but I think it's not. I think it's actually, it's too straight for, I think it's the ship coming apart. So again, it's just this quiet way of just And we've got a barrel, so I'm going to have a different brown for the barrels, because I think I've got a different brown here. Yeah, this is like a purplier brown, so I think our little barrels just want to be slightly different. We could just give oops, sorry, I've just been off camera. Little barrel. I can't see any other barrels. That could be a barrel. We've got some more kind of I've just got to be a little bit careful, because if you stand anything damp next to your pages, they will crinkle, so we've got to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to go in with a bit bigger brush actually, so I can get a nice mix there. Oh, hi Kingo, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm just having a play with my hydrus. I thought this page in, and it's a bit damp. If it's too damp, you don't want to lose your colour on the end. So if you nip, you can see your hands get wet, and then nip backwards, you can take off a lot of that dampness, and it just stops your page crinkling. Now if you don't mind your page crinkling, you can just carry on. If you have a water brush, it will take it to nothing. Now a bigger brush, kind of like that, the fact that they mix together, kind of like that. Now apologies, this could be a bark alert, because it could be the postman. Oh, for goodness sake, so sorry I'm not in. It would help if I was in frame, wasn't it? Sorry. It was a long night with the baby bunnies. And I was worried all night about them, so I wanted to get up and give them another feed, but because we're feeding them with the mummy, but of course she can't tell us when the milk comes in, so we're kind of guessing. But they've got fat tummies, so you might be out of the woods. So that's a number 6 brush. I think I'm going to go to a number 4, and then I'll be in the middle then. I don't think I like this purple. Just don't think I like this purple. I think it's once you start something though, you've got to keep going with it really. And you can put a little bit of gouache or acrylic paint over the top if you completely mess up. But So I didn't make the purple. I have the purple, but I've made a couple of greens. I'm waiting for a phthalo green, and then I can make not a phthalo green. I'm waiting for a cerulean blue and a cadmium red, and then I can make my own colours. Because again, you only need 6 of these. I made the oranges, the cold yellows, the warm yellows, the reds, and I made a couple of greens. I didn't make this phthalo green. This is phthalo. You get that in the set. So again, I wish I'd not bought this set because I kind of like making my own colours, but I just pan out a little bit. So I'm just working from this palette, and I want rid of these, and I keep thinking I want rid of them, but they just never go down because they're so vibrant. They are really, really vibrant, and I'm so lost without the dog keeping my feet warm. Because my daughter's home from college because they're on holiday this week and next, and of course I don't exist now because Alfie's a bit fickle that way. So I've got a couple of blues there. And I think I might actually have a look for a blue. This I'm going to do smoke coloured, I think. So I could leave the sails just white, just not bother with them at all. So I do need to get in here and do this blue. So I'm going to have just a quick flick on here for the blues. So I don't think I made this blue either. I think I've got I think that's like a Prussian blue, and this is a French ultramarine, I think. Yeah, that's a purpley blue. And then yeah, you get 2 blues. So I think that's quite a sea one, this one. So again, you can see the consistency. As soon as I touch it, it turns into a watercolour. But what I want to do with it is kind of manipulate it so it will go to nothing. So you get that watercolour effect, but you don't use a lot of water. You're using your damp riggers, and I really like that effect. So if I can get that round there, that should look quite good. You take it. Oh, you can't take the monster upstairs, can you? Okay, darling, thanks. Do you want to bring them down for a bunny cam? Yeah, but they'll be on top. Right. So how long have we been? We're going to have a bunny cam. Does anybody want to see the baby bunnies? We're having a baby bunny cam. So I was working in number 4, and I'm going to be using that blue. So I'm just going to move these carefully, and then put that down there because we've got to check on them anyway. We don't feed them now. We feed them about tea time. See. So we'll have a bunny cam. So the baby bunnies will be here in a moment. And then my daughter might have to take Alfie into another room. Oopsie, 2 seconds. It can't be long because they're on a heat pad. So these are 5-6 days? 5 days? These are our babies. 7 days old. These are our babies. Oops, they don't like being off that heat pad. We have them on a heat pad. And if we disturb them too much, they might think it's mummy and they'll be hungry. They've got such big ears. The mummy's a lop ear. Yeah. And of course they don't open their eyes yet for a while. Yeah. But they're very good because when they're cold, they bury themselves down. So, oopsie. so we can't be too long because they've got to go back on the heat pad. Oopsie. But they're very clever. They bury themselves down to be near the heat pad when they're cold, and then they come to the top when they're nice and warm. But they've still got bruises on their heads, so we think she's just that bit too rough with them. But they're all getting plumpy. They're not. I don't want to touch them, but they're not kind of crinkly. So, oopsie. Yeah, they're getting cold. He doesn't like being on top. He says, I don't want to be on top, I want to be underneath. So we have to put them back now because they're still... So that was our quick bunny cam. Do you want to open the door, darling? Do you want to open the door first? And I haven't got him. I don't know where he is. Thank you. So that's why I didn't sleep very well, because I was worried about the babies. I was worried about the babies. Yes, Alfie's eyes are on stalks. So the beauty of the fact you've done it with very, very, not very wet, that's what I'm trying to say. If you remember where it is, you can find it. I thought I put a sticky on top. I think it's here. The beauty of that is it's completely dry. So if you're at the hospital, or if you're watching television, or if something, you just have to suddenly shut the book, it's almost instantly dry. So, really like this. And again, I'm trying to get rid of this because this is why I want to get rid of all this colour so that I can put all my professional watercolours in here. It's a bit dusty, but this is pastel. When I was sharpening my pastels, I made the dust, so I'm going to use this in something else's backgrounds. I'm not going to waste it. I think that would be quite nice for the for those fairy books, the very pale fairy books. But you can still get some really pale colours. You know, you can take this to almost nothing. I mean, that's a very, very pale blue. Thanks, Sam. Oh, sorry, you want to push the tray. Did you give her a little bit of food or something when you saw her? Yeah, no, but she's nursing. She's permanently hungry. So you can get some really nice pale colours from that really rich, deep colour. So again, that's the advantage, like the Inktense pencils. You know, you've got that vibrancy, but you've also got the best of both worlds. So I quite like that. I like that, especially in colour books. In colour books, you think if you've got watercolours, you can get the watercolour effect, but you've got some really rich colours. And as I say, I keep using this as a reference because this is I think the first time I used them in such a vibrant colour book. But I used these wet. I dunked into the green, and then I dunked into a wet blue. I dunked into the phthalo green, and then I dunked in a phthalo blue, and then I stroked the page. So I got wonderful blends on the page. Excuse me. But I wanted to see what colours went with each thing, so excuse me, I don't know if I can keep awake. I'll just turn this off for a second while I cough, sorry. I turned the microphone off. I do apologise. Oh, hi, Suzanne. Oh, you just missed the baby bunny cam. We had a baby bunny cam a bit earlier, but it'll be on. I think it's recorded, hopefully. Am I yellow again? Why am I yellow again? Let me have a look. Oh, I shouldn't be. Is that better? You have to knock the white off, otherwise it goes crazy. Is that fine? Oh, sound's still muted. Right, just bear with me 2 seconds. Is that any better? Is that better, the sound? Was it okay before, or was it muted before? Oh, hi Karen, welcome to Bunny's Designs. The problem is I'd rather not show them too much, because obviously it's more important that they're only 7 days old, as in tonight, I think. During the night, they're 7 days old, so... but she's doing well. We only feed them a couple of times, but we try to get them on the mum, so... Oh, good, that's brilliant. Sorry about that. I'd messed about with the microphone because I thought I didn't want to cough. But obviously the dust, even if it's paper shavings, it's still a bit dusty and it just sets me off. So I'm working with a hydrus in Mythomorphia. And I'm doing the very cross octopus. Is it an octopus? I think it's an octopus. He's having a smashing time with that ship anyway. So I've just decided to work with the number 4 brush, I think, before we had the baby bunny cam. And I think this particular one is cobalt blue, I think. So I'm just going to check again. So I want it really dark, but then I want it to be really light. Yeah, I'll upload the video straight away, and so you can see the baby buns. Let me just think what I was doing. Oh, I know why I've gone yellow, Suzanne. Sorry, yeah. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Sorry about that. That should be better now. So, if you mess about like that, it's been dried now and it's got colour on the end, the chances are that colour is not going to be as good. So you need to kind of damp brush straight into that colour. And then, I know this is going to be dark, but I think this is going to be a bit of a dramatic dark page anyway, so I think, and then I kind of want a bit of a pale wave there. I do want these waves, I want to go in here. So I'm going to go in here. This is a dark wave. Thank you, Susan. It's because I zoomed in, and I changed position of the camera. So I want to have some really rich dark here, and that's a little bit darker than I wanted. But in theory, if we take this up here, we're going to get some gorgeous pale blues, which is going to look quite nice. So this can be kind of rich and dark down there. Under here can be rich. A deep sea blue, but then it needs to go across, and do excuse my stomach. I'm not used to drinking coffee, but it gives me terrible indigestion. Again, that bit wants to be a bit darker. So again, must have a damp brush. You must dunk into the water, dry it off with a baby wipe, and then touch the colour to get that perfect light to dark watercolour effect. If you don't want the watercolour effect, just dip in and do, but if you want that lovely gorgeous colour effect from here, but practice on a photocopy paper first. Always do it, and it may be that you think, oh my goodness, it's taking a long time, but once you've done one photocopy paper, say you photocopied this, once you've done this page with these hydras, there isn't a page you can't do, because this is a lot thicker than photocopy paper. And once you've learnt that lovely watercolour effect, it's so nice and easy to work. And you can do it with any paints. The hydras give different effects, but you can actually do it with anything. I want a little bit of darkness down there. And you learn where to dip into your palette as well. So you want a bit stronger colour, you go to a bit stronger side. But you can only do that if you've practiced. And I did Thumper. I think I did Thumper twice, and I did a couple of tigers that I photocopied from, I think that was the aviary, and the other one was the Annie something, the animal one. And I forgot who did that one. I bought it for my daughter. So again, this is one colour, and it's the same colour. I'm just dipping into that little corner there. So I'm just going a little tiny bit, one little tiniest drop, and then I'm just colouring, and I'm getting so many blues because of the damp rigger. It's such a nice way to work and almost instantly dry. So if you're somewhere where you can't be noisy, it's brilliant. So when I'm behind a model show, I can't really be that noisy. Again, you just damp brush, one tiny touch, and then you're away again. And the bigger the rigger, the bigger the space. So when you're doing tiny spaces, you want a smaller rigger. So I should have got quite a nice effect with that. Oh, hi Judy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. So this is a live stream recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. Thank you for joining me today. I'm working in Mythomorphia with my Dr. Martens hydras, but I'm working with them dry. I'm using a damp rigger on a dried watercolour effect, and that's why I'm getting these gorgeous blues and taking them to get 6 or 7 shades from one paintbrush. And there could be a bark alert in a moment, I think. And the damp brush is just activating a tiny amount. You can work 2 different ways with these hydras. You can work like this, or you can work a lot stronger, as in the Mythomorphia birds I've just shown. That was a damp brush dipped into 2 liquid colours, and it gave a completely different effect. There seems to be lots of activity outside. Now this number 4 rigger is staying a lot damper than the smaller one, so I'm going in there instead of going back to clean the brush, because there's a lot of colour on here, and I like to keep going until there's almost nothing. So I think these would be the palest, and the spray is completely white, and that's what I'm doing. So because I'm going to be able to give a little bit of colour to these. And you can see the damp brush, once that brush is dry it will not manipulate this colour, so you've got to kind of keep it quite just damp. Any wetter, but again, if you've done the photocopy you will know exactly what to do with the brush for the effect you want. So you can build up some really nice colours. I actually found a thumper, one of the original thumpers. Practice. This was another practice of thumper. This was one of my first plays with my hydrus. And again, completely different way to work. Started on the outside, carried on and carried on and carried on until there was hardly any colour. So all that came from one tiny speck on a damp rigger. And then I did the same again, and then I went back, darker light, darker light, darker light. Here again, darker light. And I was mixing colours, because there isn't an olive, I mixed those colours. And this was from, I think, wet. I think this is from a wet one. But it's the one that we sent to Indeedee's competition for the watercolour pages. I think I did a tiger. So it was my second attempt at a tiger. So they're very vibrant, but you get these wonderful colours, 10, 20 colours from one speck of colour. Very vibrant. They are about £6 or £7 each, or they're about £50-60 in a set. I got set 1, but I would normally buy 6 colours. I would buy the Hansa yellow. There is a gamboge, but I made the cad yellow because there wasn't one. I made the oranges. I made the cad red because there wasn't one. I've got a pink. In fact, I've got 2 pinks. And I put a tiny drop of orange in the pink, in the bright pinky red, Elysian crimson, to make the cad red. So I've made some cad reds. There is a purple there. I want there's a purpley blue, and then there's the phthalo blue, which is what I'm doing. A cobalt blue, sorry, which is what I'm doing that. Then there's 2 greens. There's there's 1 green, a phthalo green, which is a fake, what I call a fake green, and the phthalo blue. And that's the 2 colours on this bird here. Shows it better. So we've got a lovely green, like a hooker's bright forest green, and then we've got like a purple, like a turquoisey blue, and you can mix them together. So that was mixed wet with wet, and this is mixed with a damp rigger, but when it's dried. It's tacky, but it's dried. So there's 2 ways to work with them, but if you work with them when they're dry, you get from very dark to very pale. If you work with them from wet, you don't tend to run out of colour. The brush dries on the brightest colour kind of thing. So there's 2 ways you can use them, and there could be a bark alert. Oh, hi Kate, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Hi Brenda, anybody else popping in? So again, I thought this page, as soon as I saw it, I envisaged this very, very grumpy hydrous looking bright teals, and but in this particular part here I wanted to keep these separate, so here I've mixed them together. So I've got a couple of drops of, and there's only two drops of phthalo blue and 2 drops of phthalo green. I made these greens because they didn't have any what I call realistic greens, so I've made these greens, these 3 greens. So I'm working with the number 4. I don't know what I've done with it now. My Rigger Aquafine Dale around it just seems to be the right amount for these particular sizes, so you've got to have a look. And again, this is why a photocopy is a really good idea. You iron out such a lot, and you don't have to finish the page. Play with the colours, see what you like, mix colours. I made my own olive colours here. So you can play with the colours, play with that on a photocopy, see what it does. And once you can get that lovely flat effect, or watercolour effect, without going over and through, then you can do it on your colour page in your book. Oh, is it tomorrow? Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. So I'm going to stop this video on this bit because we've had a bit of a bunny cam as well. We've had a baby bunny cam because we've got some 7-day-old bunnies that we're kind of hand feeding with the mum because she's a bit rough with them, bless. And I know they can be bashed at birth, but we lost 2, so we've taken them away from her and we put them together at feeding time. So they seem to be having enough food. And she still doesn't attack them when she sees them, so that's quite good as well, so fingers crossed. So thank you for watching. This is the end of part 1 of Mythomorphia, and it's the octopus, the angry octopus page. Thank you for watching.